UFOs in a Strange Universe. Welcome to UFOs in a Strange Universe. I'm Ivanhoe Shapu. I'm 78 years old, and I've been studying UFOs and the paranormal since my first UFO sighting when I was 13 years old. I hope you enjoy my experiences and personal views on the strangeness of the UFO phenomenon in the following chapters of UFOs in a Strange Universe. I'd like to mention that I use a robo-voice for my videos since I've had 2 major strokes and tend to stammer when reading. Also, I've noticed that this voice mispronounces some words, so I've learned to spell out these phonetically. He does a better job now. UFO researchers and theories, it's just human nature to develop perceptions about our environment. Perceptions turn into beliefs, and beliefs are what we become. Bears will attack people and eat them. Cops enjoy stopping people to hand out tickets. School sucks because of mean teachers. The news is full of lies because it's fake. Guns kill people. Accidents are caused by bad drivers. Aliens aren't real. Therefore, UFOs aren't real too. In contrast to these perceived beliefs are that bears normally avoid people. Cops will give tickets if you've broken a traffic law. Teachers are caring, benevolent people. The news brings us current events worth noting. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Even good drivers can cause an accident. And aliens must be real because who's responsible for all these UFOs? People believe what they believe because of what has been defined or experienced as being real or in the least believable. However, reality is neutral and exhibits no biases. It's our perceptions and interpretations thereof that label anything and everything as good, bad, or indifferent. Our perceptions govern our likes and dislikes, and hence every feeling and belief about everything perceived from our first glance at our physical surroundings up until now. And it's our perceptions of what we believe. That must mean that having an opinion on anything must defaults to a moot point, since opinions are like assholes, everybody had one. Some facts can be disputed with enough fake evidence that minds can be changed. But other facts often reveal themselves as indisputable, unwavering in their solidity to offer proof of their reality. Many scientists have claimed that reality is not real, the opinion that all that we experience is an illusion. One of these beliefs is based on matter, that when broken down to its minutest constituents, and the space between subatomic parts is so vast that there is literally nothing between these specks, and that these specks are so far apart that matter doesn't exist at all. In actuality, there isn't really empty space between subatomic particles, but a fluctuating quantum field with virtual particles that appear like clouds that comprise atoms. Then, there are theories that propose the simulation hypothesis due to limitations of our senses. These theorize that our senses filter out large amounts of information, thereby experiencing only a tiny fraction of reality. Quantum physics teaches that objects have no definite properties when observed. This is where Werner Heisenberg's uncertainty principle comes into play, where one can know where something is, but not its momentum. But if its momentum is known, you can't know where it is, hence the anomaly of the wave-particle duality. I talk about this extensively in my book Infinity, Time, Death, and Thought. Hence, the universe has many secrets that we do not understand, and I'm in agreement with Werner that we are not even capable of understanding it. It's with a desire to know that the search goes on like Alice in Wonderland, never reaching the final answer, like madmen on a never-ending quest. Which brings me to my point for writing this chapter. For a brief summary, I will divide UFOs, their occupants and visitors, and other non-human intelligence into 3 basic categories. I will expound on this with my 6 categories later. Firstly, there are the extraterrestrials. These are physical beings. Secondly, there are interdimensional and extradimensional beings. These beings have abilities that are supernatural in nature. Thirdly, there are spiritual entities. These beings can appear ghostly, evanescent, can materialize and dematerialize, and can transcend all dimensions. Again, there are several researchers into the alien UFO phenomenon that will stake their reputations on their beliefs that they know either what the alien agenda is about, where they are from, what they're doing on our planet, how long they've been here, or any number of beliefs. Like Werner Heisenberg said, the universe is strange, and like beliefs, who knows? All these researchers may be correct in their own spheres. Getting them to agree on some universal all-encompassing theory or postulate may not be possible using our limited thinking apparatus, our limited brain power. Extraterrestrial beings. To categorize some of these beliefs, I will start with stating that some UFO researchers are under the impression that we are being visited by entities from other star systems, either within our galaxy or have traveled distances too far to imagine. It's estimated that the universe has between 200 billion and 2 trillion galaxies, and that's just within the observable part of the universe. If some of these civilizations are millions, even billions of years ahead of us, their claim is that they may have developed technologies that allow for warping space-time. They may even have learned how to instantaneously travel between star systems and even galaxies by way of wormholes or even transcending dimensions, allowing for exiting and re-entering physical space-time. They have arrived here in vehicles that appear to defy laws of physics. They have been reported moving at extremely high speeds, hovering in place, traveling in and out of water, making abrupt right-angle turns, flying in and out of water, and in air making no sonic boom while traveling at thousands of miles per hour. These are extraterrestrial beings, and for the most part, are physical in nature. Extraterrestrial beings have been witnessed as having telepathic abilities. They reside in physical bodies and have been known to come in physical contact with humans. They have also been known to heal, although it's more from a procedural form, similar to a hospital operation, although far advanced. There are instances where they have exhibited a thorough knowledge of the human body and have implanted devices in many abductees. It's not known what purpose these implants are for, if these are tracking devices or what. Many of these implants have been removed surgically by various doctors. Dr. Roger Lair, 1935 to 2014, was one of the first surgeons to do this. There have been cases where aliens have performed surgical procedures that have left scars that healed in a matter of minutes or hours. Preston Dennett's The Healing Power of UFOs describes 300 accounts of people healed by extraterrestrials. Some extraterrestrials will exhibit little emotion, acting more robotic or uncaring, and only wish to get on with their agenda. They often say that they won't hurt the abductee, but in many cases the person will feel pain or great discomfort. Needles or probes are inserted in various cavities, like the nose or throat, and sometimes in the rectum. Betty Hill had a needle inserted into her navel, which the aliens told her was a pregnancy test and was quite painful. One abductee had her eye removed and placed on her cheek, which she said was quite disconcerting. When pain is mentioned, the alien would often place a hand on the head or other part of the body and make the pain instantly disappear. Let's turn to another phenomenon that's puzzled our farmers and ranchers, and that's cattle mutilation. Linda Moulton Howe made a huge splash in the UFO community in 1980 with her classic book, A Strange Harvest. Many UFO researchers believe that a deal was made with aliens and the United States to allow them to abduct a certain number of people and also free rein on cattle for their own purposes. Some called this deal between aliens and the U.S. grazing rights. Interestingly, these carcasses were devoid of blood with tongues and rectal areas removed. There were no footprints of any kind. One farmhand said to look for depressions under the animal, as they are often dropped from a great height. As of 2025, cattle mutilations still occur. Many abductees have been told of future events, either personal or of impending catastrophes such as floods, earthquakes, or wars. However, according to Google, there is little to no record of future events obtained or having materialized from alien abductions. I've not heard of any, but I personally don't know. Extraterrestrials from other places in the physical universe must surely possess wants, beliefs, desires, and traits much like us. These include Nordics, or what is called tall whites, greys both tall and short, reptilians, insectoids or mantis types, and Pleiadians. This is not a comprehensive list, nor is it in contrast with the 36 intelligent civilizations estimated by some UFO researchers and the 69 alien species claimed by Dr. Stephen Greer, hybrids of different sorts, and a list of varying beings found by doing a Google search. I will discuss these more esoteric beings in a later video on interdimensional and spirit encounters. As I mentioned, one prominent ability that physical extraterrestrials possess is telepathy. Why we don't have this ability is mysterious, given that it seems to be prevalent among extraterrestrials, interdimensional, and spirit entities. I will add that Preston Dennett, a UFO and paranormal researcher, has enlightened my scope and expanded my knowledge and curiosity of what the universe has presented to regular citizens in his many books and blogs. Preston has documented thousands of cases of sightings, alien contact, humans on board UFOs with aliens, and some really bizarre experiences collected from varying sources from all over the world. From Michelin Man, which is a being that looks like the Michelin tire commercial, to robotic types, to tiny little beings, extremely tall ones, aliens hitchhiking, lifting cars off the road, and on and on. What I admire about Preston's approach is that he presents these cases with no embellishments, just the facts as witnesses saw them. I'm of a different ilk. I can't help but postulate theories and scenarios of how and why, always trying to figure out mechanisms by which things happen. Interdimensional and extradimensional beings. Next are the interdimensional and extradimensional beings. Their craft and abilities defy known laws of physics such as shapeshifting and passing through solid matter. Extraterrestrials have also been witnessed defying no laws of physics with abrupt right-angle turns at thousands of miles per hour, transmedium travel in air and in water, defying gravity and manipulating time. But interdimensional and extradimensional beings possess added phenomenon like walking through walls, changing shape, materializing, and dematerializing. These are largely interdimensional and extradimensional abilities. Extraterrestrials that have visited Earth may be far advanced technologically. However, it appears interdimensional and extradimensional beings possess abilities far beyond what technology and our physics can derive. Technology is defined as the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, especially in industry. The scientific method is a systematic approach to gaining knowledge and understanding of the world through observation, experimentation, and analysis. Technology is a forerunner of the scientific method. I believe that the scientific method has crippled our advancement in the areas of paranormal research, psychic investigation, and yes, the study of UFOs, especially when it comes to understanding interdimensional or extradimensional UFO sightings and contact. The tenet of the scientific method is, if it can't be proven by repeatability or appears to be physically impossible, it ain't real. However, evidence is coming to light that the scientific method just can't handle. Proving that a being can go through a wall, that an object can change direction instantly, like bouncing a ping-pong ball off a wall, communicating telepathically, and witnessing a ghost, is scientifically not possible using the scientific method. On the other hand, it appears that interdimensional and extradimensional beings can manipulate not only time, but matter itself. There are many examples of shape-shifting craft caught on camera. Saturday, March 22, 2015. A shape-shifting, slowly turning object hovered high above Green Cove Springs on Saturday afternoon, leaving many to speculate about it. In another article, a bizarre video uploaded by an aircraft passenger depicts what seems like a shape-shifting UFO hovering miles above the surface of the Earth, according to a clip uploaded by the YouTube channel Disclosed Screen, The Grim Reaper. Another is, a local filmed a glowing, shape-shifting object hovering above the desert on April 27th, and UFORC investigators confirm it's not SpaceX debris. And the morphing black object was high above, just west of US 17 and south of Harbor Road. It made no noise and was at least a few hundred feet off the ground. Sightings and videos of shape-shifting UFOs have increased with the use of cell phone cameras. Estimates are that there are 16 billion cell phones owned worldwide. With this many cell phones, I'll make an educated guess that disclosure of UFOs will not come from any government, but from citizens on social media. Is it a UFO? Technically, yes, but the nature of a UFO is that it is precisely that, an unidentified flying object, but now they are also changing their shape. But what about instances of abductions and actual contact with non-human intelligence? We read about extraterrestrials above, abducting or making contact with humans. What about interdimensional beings that are responsible for some UFOs? Do these entities abduct people like extraterrestrials, or do they have a completely different agenda? According to some ufologists, interdimensional and extradimensional beings have been known to abduct humans as extraterrestrials do. However, they appear to take a different, more personal approach to their communication, and will often be more benevolent in their dealings with humans. Sometimes their presence is not normally observed, as their existence is often within a non-visible spectrum. However, they possess the ability to be seen or not seen. There have been instances where some people see them in plain sight, and others looking in their direction see nothing. Here's a report of a Japanese man who saw a UFO and was next to his wife and children who saw nothing. My name is Tatsumi Tanaka. I'm 42 years old, and the owner of the beauty parlor in Anaka City, Gunma Prefecture, Japan. Last Sunday, October 23rd, I saw a UFO, and it was the first time such a shocking matter happened to me. I never believed that I would have such an experience, but surprisingly, it happened to me. I was on the second floor of my house, and casually looking out the east window when I caught sight of a white object, rather big, the shape impossible to describe, rising softly and perpendicularly from the surface of the ground. We can see Mount Akagi in the north-northeast direction, and it was in this direction that the UFO rose, but I could not tell how far away it was. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning. I wondered what it was. I thought at first sight it must be an airship or a balloon. I strained my eyes to see better, but could not understand what it was. After rising straight up, it stayed for a while at a constant height and seemed to become blurred outside. It then turned into the oval shape that is familiar to us from TV or magazines. It was the same object, but not the same shape as before, but the outline was not clear. Soon after, it moved to the right at a fast speed. It looked like a low-altitude flight, but it all happened so quickly, and then it just disappeared in a cloudless blue sky. I was so shocked, I felt out of my mind. This thing was so huge, but it disappeared just in a moment. I tried to explain what I saw to my wife and child, who were right beside me, but I couldn't. I just pointed and could only shout out in surprise. My wife was very annoyed and said that not everyone can see UFOs, only some people do and some don't. By then it had disappeared. I was so excited that I went outside with my daughter and searched the sky, but it was too late. I still can't believe I have had such an experience. I will never forget that movement and that speed, something beyond common sense. It means to me that things exist that we don't understand. There are many instances such as this one. Italian man. I am Major Francesco Zappi, formerly chief pilot of the Orsa Maggiore Squadron of the Italian Army Light Aircraft Corps, 21st Helicopter Group. On October 27, 1977, we had taken off in the helicopters for a normal training flight when, at a distance of about 300 meters, I saw in front of me an extremely bright orange-colored circle. It looked like a ring of fire in the sky. We at once contacted the control tower, who replied that nothing was visible from the ground. Meanwhile, the fiery circle continued to be there, right in front of us, and moving at a speed almost identical to our own. Then I asked the other two helicopters of our squadron whether they could see it. One said they could, and confirmed that they were seeing the same thing as we were, while the third helicopter, piloted by Captain Romolo Romani, replied that they saw nothing. The luminous circle then suddenly vanished at a speed impossible for any aircraft of this world to equal. I called the control tower again and was informed that in the meantime, other people had seen it and had been following it with binoculars, but the radar had detected nothing. Here's one where something was seen, then appeared to be erased. In September 30, 1954, I found myself in a peculiar state of drowsiness, walking away from my team of 8 construction workers. Less than 10 meters away from me, on a slope, I saw a man. His head was covered with an opaque glass helmet, with a visor coming down to his chest. He wore gray overalls and short boots. In his hand, he held an elongated object, which could have been a pistol or could have been a metal rod. On his chest was a light. He was standing in front of a large shining dome, which floated about 3 feet off the ground. Above the cupola of the machine were objects like rotating wings or blades. Then suddenly, the strange man vanished, and I couldn't explain how he did, since he did not vanish from my field of vision by walking away, but vanished like an image one erases suddenly. Then I heard a strange whistling sound, and the dome rose by successive jerks in a vertical direction, and then it too was erased in a sort of blue haze. 6 of my team also confirmed these details. According to ufologist John Keel, encounters with interdimensional beings are quite common. In fact, they may be more common than extraterrestrials. He initially believed in extraterrestrials, but later shifted his perspective. He started to agree with Jacques Vallée that the stories found in folklore and religious texts might serve as proof that humanity had encountered another form of intelligent life. He referred to them as ultra-terrestrials, but the term interdimensional or extradimensional can also apply. Why would a researcher shift their belief from extraterrestrial to interdimensional, extradimensional, or ultra-terrestrial when the possibilities of all 3 existing are totally plausible and may well be the very same thing? Bob Lazar worked on a craft at S4 that was quite solid, had measurable dimensions, little seats, and was actually flown by humans. There were 9 craft that he witnessed, one that appeared to have damage made by another physical object. These craft were not of the interdimensional, extradimensional, or ultra-terrestrial type, or at least from my logical engineering perspective, what Bob Lazar saw were made from solid materials of our physical universe and were plainly extraterrestrial. Jacques Vallée once asked J. Allen Hynek about the strangeness of non-human life, to which he responded, "What other wild hypotheses could we make?" Allen Hynek then added, "There could be other universes with different quantum rules or vibration rates if you want. Our own space-time continuum could be a cross-section through a universe with many more dimensions." He continued, "Think what a hard time you would have convincing an aborigine that right now, through this room, TV pictures are passing. Yet they're here. You have to have a transducer to see them, namely a TV set. In the same sense, there may be interlocking universes right here. We have this idea of space. We always think of another universe being someplace else. It may not. Maybe it's right here." Supporters of the interdimensional, extradimensional theory, like Jacques Vallée and John Keel, argue that throughout history there have been reports of supernatural beings that appear superior to humans. In earlier times, these beings were referred to as gods, angels, ogres, fairies, brownies, little people, demons, and more. Here's an example of Google's lack of knowledge on the subject. The interdimensional UFO hypothesis is the proposal that unidentified flying object sightings are the result of experiencing other dimensions or portals that coexist separately alongside our own. The hypothesis has been advanced by ufologists such as Mead Lane, John Keel, J. Allen Hynek, and Jacques Vallée. Note that they say unidentified flying objects are the result of, and say nothing about the possibility of extraterrestrials or the possibility of spiritual entities, or even that UFOs are from right here, which ufologists all agree on these possibilities. I have to mention here that Google's algorithms aren't what they used to be. Years ago, you could search exact words and phrases using quotes and parentheses. Now, one searches ufologist, and hundreds of sites of urologists pop up. Ugh, so much for AI. I have to add here that AI was recently viewed as responsible for a teenager's suicide. I should exploit the adage, keep an eye on AI. In sum, interdimensional or extradimensional beings are not simply science fiction. The interdimensional hypothesis draws from cutting-edge developments in quantum mechanics. Ideas like the many worlds interpretation and string theory suggest that the existence of multiple, coexisting dimensions is scientifically plausible. While these higher dimensions may be beyond our current technology, their existence lends credibility to the idea that interdimensional or extradimensional beings could come from radically different realms. The interdimensional hypothesis could hence reshape our understanding of the universe. Spiritual beings. Today, there are many sightings of orbs that are misidentified as ball lightning or electricity caused by tectonic plates or geological anomalies. Orbs have been seen by notable figures and authors, such as Luis Elizondo, author Chris Bledsoe, and hundreds of people in the US, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and other countries. Google claims that orbs often turn out to be rocket launches. However, this can't be a viable statement when these orbs are seen inside living rooms, bedrooms, and kitchens. I personally have no credibility for anything Google spews out as fact. And that also goes for YouTube, although many great videos can be found there. Searches will point you where you want to go, and where you don't want to go, that's about it. I first want to talk about Chris Bledsoe, who's videotaped several orbs, come in contact with spiritual beings, and witnessed a spiritual apparition he refers to in his book as the Lady. Chris also had a miraculous healing of Crohn's disease that doctors cannot explain since its prognosis is incurable. Amazon's overview describes his book UFO of God this way. Chris is a UFO experiencer and a strong believer in God. On January 8, 2007, while on the banks of the Cape Fear River, Chris Bledsoe and his teenage son, along with 3 co-workers, experienced a life-altering encounter with UAP, celestial beings, and missing time. Rather than UFOs, UAP, or celestial beings, I would sum up his encounters as spiritual, since his experiences fall well within the scope of spiritual encounters over extraterrestrial or even interdimensional contact. Chris believes that there is another side to our existence, where beings, whether deceased loved ones or beings of a spiritual kind, are cheering us on to get through the physical experience we call life. His experience with orbs, which he now views as spirit entities, began on the banks of the Cape Fear River. Chris had gathered 3 of their workers and his son, Chris Bledsoe Jr., who they nicknamed Critter, to do some fishing. However, with Chris's business failing at 46 years old, being broke, had incurable Crohn's disease, and wondering how he was going to support his family, fishing was the last thing on his mind. So he wandered off to a gully to sit beside a tree to meditate. In time it was getting dark, so he decided to return to where the guys were. When he got there, they decided to get the campfire going. Then Chris decided to take another walk. That's what he cried up to heaven saying, "Help me, what do I do? Give me the answers." As he walked parallel to the river, praying, he heard something in the brush going parallel beside him. He stopped to see anything, but he saw nothing. So he began walking, and again he heard something walking. It scared him, and as he said, "I don't get scared of anything in the woods." Chris could not figure what this was. He knew it was something with 2 feet, so he crouched down to peer under the brushes and never could see what it was. Chris kept walking uphill to the top of a clearing. He got within 30 feet of the top of the hill when he saw what he thought he was the sun. However, it turned out to be a blood-red tangerine ball of fire, about 30 to 40 feet in diameter. He could see flames shooting off with their tips going around from about 300 yards away. He got a little closer where there was more opening to the sky, and suddenly there was a second one. He said chills came over him. With his background in aviation as a pilot, and with the military, he knew they weren't from this known world. They weren't ours. He then decided to run. He turned around to run when he looked up to see a third orb directly above him. Then it shot right down beside the other 2 orbs. It's then that he realized that these things were aware of him. As he said, "It's one thing to see a ball of light, but when it responds to you, I felt like a rat in trouble." This is when Chris had a lapse of memory. He doesn't remember part of his walk back to the campfire where the 3 men were. No one was fishing, and the fire was burned down to embers. The 3 men didn't see him coming. As he approached them, he said, "Hey guys, you won't believe what just happened." Their response was, "Where in the F have you been?" He said, "I was just up the hill, what do you mean?" To which they responded, "You've been gone all night." He said, "No, I haven't. I've been gone 20 minutes. They argued back and forth when Chris began to explain about the 3 balls of fire. Then Chris asked, "Where's Chris Jr.?" They said, "He went looking for you, and he left about 3 hours ago." After searching some time for Chris's son, he found him. Chris Jr. grabbed his dad and wept. When Chris told this story, he began to weep as this story touched him immensely. I recommend reading UFO of God by Chris Bledsoe. Something that struck me about Chris's story was the time he was videotaped speaking with what he described as a small person, about 4 feet tall. In this video, he said that the small person was not seen in the video, but the footage shows Chris conversing with it. It was like Chris was conversing with himself. It was also not seen by anyone else. This video was taken by his wife. This reminds me of a video of my brother conversing with someone or something 3 days before he passed away. He was clearly communicating with an entity that was not seen by anyone in the room, nor was it recorded in the camera. When my son lived in San Pedro, California, he photographed an orb in his backyard. It was after dark, around 8:30 p.m. This was some 30 years ago, and it was shot with a film camera. I examined the photo, and I first thought that it was a lens flare reflecting off the film in the camera. However, there were no lights in the photo that could have made this reflection. The orb was about 6 to 8 inches in diameter and glowed white with bluish mottled lines all through it. I know a bit about cameras, having won many photography awards, including first place in the Kodak International Photography Award many years ago for the state, 2 years in a row. I know about lens flare, optics, and cameras, having designed many optical projects such as telescopes, 3D cameras, and emission microscopes for the silicone wafer industry. This was not a lens flare. Some Christians worry that UFOs are demonic. The term demonic implies entities that are not physical, and they're not good dudes. If they are demons, then they must be spiritual in nature, hence the term spiritual must apply. The term spiritual is defined as relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul, as opposed to material or physical things. With that definition, demons must therefore have the ability to affect the human spirit. So, are demons spiritual? Of course. Conversely, so are angels. Therefore, demons and angels originate from the same realm, but not necessarily the same sphere, as in a sphere of influence. Some Christians have voiced the opinion that since Charlie Duke, the 10th man to walk on the moon, said they are demonic beings. This is because nothing human can make a 90-degree turn at 3,000 miles an hour and survive. This is quite illogical, since it can be said that angelic beings could also perform the same feat, as they are both within a spirit realm. This is therefore simply a religious assumption. These ideas that UFOs are demonic is only one roadblock to UFO disclosure. Fortunately, Congress is looking into what's really going on with these increased UFO sightings, if not only from the standpoint of where's all this money going for UFO research that we can't find. The first law passed by the U.S. Congress concerning investigations of UFOs was to create provisions for whistleblowers to disclose to Congress what they knew about UFO retrieval. This law was a non sequitur to the hypotheses that UFOs are demonic, since disclosing UFO retrievals indicates that recovered craft would have to be extraterrestrial and not interdimensional, and especially not spiritual, angelic, or demonic. This is how out of touch Congress is on the subject of UFOs, UAP, USOs, extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, and the spirit realms in general. I can't blame them, as most ufologists lump UFOs into a single type of phenomenon. I give credit to the ufologists that will admit that they don't know where UFOs came from or how they got here, and provide data from their witnesses, then simply add some postulate or theory on what a witness or witnesses actually reported. And I will add, some of these reports range from making sense, while some are extremely bizarre. The spectrum from unremarkable to really, and I mean really, really strange, must be included in all ufologists' research for a sensible understanding of the UFO phenomenon. Even if some of these sightings or contacts make absolutely no sense at all.